It is finally here. It is time to fight forever. Hello and welcome to FTTR. I am Ewan McQuaid and today we are talking about AEW Fight Forever, the new game by THQ Nordic and Ukes with AEW Games. It is a new wrestling game that is available to buy now based on the AEW All Elite Wrestling promotion, but you probably already know that. You're probably watching this video for me to tell you if it's good or not. But before we dive into that, please hit subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts on Fight Forever down below, and I'll try and apply to every single one of them. So first off, what I'm probably going to do, this is my initial thoughts. I've had about 5-ish hours playing the game. I'm going to go into my initial reaction in this video. I'm going to do the top 5 best and worst things about the game coming soon, and then I'll do hopes for a Fight Forever 2 as well. So let's dive into this. Let's dive into Fight Forever. I think what I can say about this game, or at least the first thing I noticed when playing it, and the thing that has stuck with me the most, is that if I was a kid, if I was like 10 or 13, and this was the first wrestling game I picked up, I think it would be game changing. I think it has that energy that really, really suits itself to younger audience, that pick up and play mentality. The arcadiness of it is really fun, in the veins of No Mercy, and to an extent sort of Here Comes the Pain. I think it really, really works in the market that it's trying to capture, which is arcade wrestling. Now, does it have a few shortcomings? Yes, and I will get to them in a moment. But I think as an overall package, particularly at the price point I got it for was about £40, which is pretty low for a sort of new release PS5 game. I think it completely sticks the landing in that regard. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the best thing about this game, and I think that's the gameplay. So the gameplay itself is really fun and really arcadey. It's very, very reminiscent of No Mercy, in that you've got chain wrestling, you've got the shoulder buttons which are used for countering strikes and grapples, you've got hitting your finisher with the stick, and you've got kicks, strikes and grapple moves, and then you use the analog stick to determine which grapple you're going to do. I think it works really well. It's very unique and it makes each wrestler feel unique. I think that's one of the best things about this game, is that every wrestler does feel unique. Orange Cassidy can put his hands in the pocket and do his sloth style maneuver. MJF cowers away when he goes to evade. Kenny Omega feels like Kenny Omega because he's got an insane amount of finishes and signatures that he can do. So I think every wrestler on the roster feels unique and really well fleshed out. And same in the presentation. I think the presentation of this game, when we first saw it, we were a little bit underwhelmed. I think we were a bit trepidatious as to what the visuals will look like. In the game, I think it really, really works. It's not overtly cartoonish. They are sort of caricatures and sort of over-the-top designs of wrestlers, but not to an extent of like WWE All-Stars or WWE 2K Battlegrounds. They feel like the wrestlers themselves, just a little bit exaggerated, which I think is really good and really works well for the game and the aesthetic that they've built. And that plays into the roster. I think the roster, while a little bit outdated, you've got a few new additions in there like Danielson, like Cole. It's a little bit outdated because it was obviously put into production a while ago. You've got people who haven't been on TV for ages, like an Abaddon or like some of the members of the Dark Order. But I think it works. It's a nice mix of characters. You've got all the favourites in there. You've got Moxley, MJF, Jade Cargill, Britt Baker, Jericho, Kenny, Hangman. So you've got all the AEW regulars that you have come to know and love about this game. So I think it's really, really, really good in the presentation aspect and in the gameplay aspect. Where I think it falls down is in some of the bugs. So I haven't seen as many bugs as other people have. I had one bug where me as Hangman Page and Adam Cole glitched and went through the ring, and I think some of the collision detection is a bit wonky when you're trying to grapple people, particularly trying to get weapons out from under the ring. I struggle with that a lot, and he often just stands by the ring doing the grapple. So I think that's one of the issues, is the collision and noticing and having that grapple button be the same grapple button that you need to get weapons out from under the ring is a bit confusing, a bit contrived. But I didn't see too many bugs, but they were noticeable enough in the detection, like, oh, I thought that should have hit. I thought that was going to hit, kind of thing. That's probably my main critique, is it's not as polished as it probably could be. Then there's modes. So we'll talk about modes and game types. So you have the big story mode, which is Road to the Elite. I think Road to the Elite, the few hours that I've put in are fun. I think it's probably I'm more invested in this than I am the 2K storylines, because this feels like it's cheesy in a good way. It's not poorly written. Well, to an extent it's poorly written, but it's goofy and it's cheesy, taking selfies as Darby Allin with his face paint on at a restaurant with Luchasaurus is just, it knows what it is, and I think it's channeling some of the sort of JRPG stuff. You can really sort of feel Kenny Omega's influence in that, with some of the goofiness and some of the cheesiness of the dialogue. But I think the structure of it's quite well. You have blocks of 4 weeks leading up to a Dynamite, leading up to a pay-per-view, and then you have 4 things you can do in a week, like go to the gym, go for food, or sightsee and do all these mini games, and then you have the Dynamite to play, where you have a match that furthers the story in terms of your road to the Elite. I think it works really well in that regard. I'm playing as Darby Allin, so for some reason you can't adjust stats if it's a pre-existing character, which I think is a bit silly, because it sort of defeats the point of playing as them, because you can't actually do the RPG elements of it. But I'm not into creating characters, so I'm stuck with Darby Allin. But yeah, I think it's a really fun mode so far. I'm happy to see how it plays out and see some of the unlockables that you can get. I think it's interesting. It's really interesting Road to the Elite, and it has gripped me to an extent. Match types, they're not. So the thing with the match types, I think the match types are good for what they are. There's not a tremendous amount in there. You've got ladder, you've got exploding barbed wire deathmatch, you've got 4-way, 3-way tag, you've got lights out and falls count anywhere, and the casino battle royal. So it's not an incredibly deep system in terms of how many matches you've got in there, match types, but I think they work well enough to get you invested and get you playing them again and again. The highlight for me is the exploding barbed wire deathmatch. I think that they've nailed that. I think that it's so fun, particularly the animations and the explosions that go off. You've got the big explosion in the middle of the match, and you've got the explosions that happen when you chuck people into the ropes. I think that's really, really fun. Lights out again, if the weapon physics were a little bit better, would be really, really fun. Thumbtacks are out of this world. They are a game changer. Having thumbtacks in the game and the animations when you drop someone on the thumbtacks, it just makes for it gives you that wrestling reaction when someone gets dropped on thumbtacks. You're like, oh my god, because you see all the tacks in them, the blood starts pouring, the ring starts swelling up with blood. Really good some of the weapons that you've got in here, and the bottle as well. The bottle just came out of nowhere, the bottle of bubbly. So I think they've done really well with the weapons. I think it's really, really cool. So yeah, match types pretty good, but not as deep as they could be. Creation suite, I haven't fully dived into, because if you've watched me talk about wrestling games before, I don't have the creativity to come up with cool wrestlers, sadly, which is why I'm never happy with how a created wrestler looks. Even if I try and make it look like myself, it just doesn't fit, so I never really dive into the creative wrestling stuff. But I've heard it's not too deep, so yeah, I can't really comment on that. And I think that's pretty much everything. I think AEW is Fight Forever is such a concise package that has laid a great groundwork for the game going forward and the franchise as a whole. I'm not sure how it's sold. Hopefully it's sold well. I just really, really love the gameplay. I'm loving sinking my time into the matches and doing AEW style matches, and I love it. I really, really love it. I think it's hit all the marks that I wanted it to hit, as being, like AEW as a whole, an alternative to the 2K games. Because let's not forget, 2K have been the main player in town in terms of wrestling games for a long time. A long time. Even like their variation, 2K Battlegrounds, didn't go down too well. So it's good to see a new competitor rise to the surface with a really solid game. a really solid game. So yeah, that's where I'm going to draw the line for my initial thoughts. I'm not going to star it here. I'm going to leave that. Maybe I'll put it on my Twitter or my Instagram, what I think of what my star rating is for the game. But yeah, my initial thoughts and reactions to AEW Fight Forever, that is them. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of them. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.